When I Should Be So Lucky hit #1 on the British singles charts back in 1988, no one was more dumbfounded by her overnight success than Kylie Minogue herself. Her path to pop glory had begun by chance just 1 year earlier, when she and some of her neighbours' co-stars sang together at a charity benefit in Melbourne. When the audience cried out for more, Kylie suggested a sing-along to the locomotion. Her rendition of the Little Eva hit went down so well that someone suggested she should record it, and her debut single set off a chain reaction that would propel her all the way to the offices of Pete Waterman Limited in the UK. The story goes, however, that when Kylie and executive Gary Ashley flew in from Australia, hit writers Stock Aitken and Waterman had forgotten that they were coming and hastily cobbled together a song while they waited outside. That song turned out to be I Should Be So Lucky, and by the age of 20, Kylie from Camberwell had become an accidental megastar. Her debut album spent more than a year on the British album charts, turning Kylie Minogue into a household name. 2 decades later, she was a guest at her own costume exhibition at Britain's prestigious Victoria and Albert Museum, taking in the many milestones and phases of her first 20 years in show business. She couldn't help but be impressed.
Oh my God! I've been busy.
And while some of the stuffy members of the British art establishment expressed outrage that the V&A had lowered itself to the glorification of pop music, Kylie, the exhibition's curator, had no trouble in justifying the retrospective.
She is without a doubt an icon of popular contemporary culture, and you see through the exhibition that she's somebody who's always changed her image through the 20 or so years that she's been in the forefront, and that she's not afraid of making mistakes, and that she is fantastically professional and hardworking.
The exhibition stretched memories all the way back to the image that brought Kylie to fame in the mid-80s, as Charlene the Mechanic in Neighbours. When her singing career took off in 1988, she ditched the overalls and left the show, along with her on- and off-screen partner Jason Donovan. The sugary pop songs, muslin dresses, curly hair and girly videos of her early pop career neatly extended the girl next door image she'd crafted on Neighbours. Her real-life romance with Jason also helped keep the spirit of Charlene alive. As well as recording the #1 duet Especially For You, Kylie and Jason sang together on the 1989 version of the Band-Aid single, Do They Know It's Christmas? Always friendly with the press and her fans, Smiley Kylie became a favourite on daytime children's shows. But even at the tender age of 21, she was showing signs of a serious side.
Apparently, Ethiopia is in a worse state this year than it was last year, so everyone's getting together to help. So it's very worthwhile. Yeah.
She also showed an early appreciation of the team supporting her as an artist.
People forget that everyone inside the building, the TV crews, just everyone involved is putting in their time and willing to help, which is great.
That appreciation of support and collaboration was to take on increasing significance as she began to test her wings. And back in 1989, she needed all the help she could get in the next stage of her metamorphosis from sugar-coated teen queen to sexy siren. Her poorly received role in the film The Delinquents may have added a little raunch to her image, but it was her next romance with sultry INXS frontman Michael Hutchence that really made the difference. Although they were rarely seen out together in public, Michael's influence on the pop princess immediately became obvious, as a more self-assured Kylie began taking control of her career. In interviews, she claimed that being with a mature man helped her strike a better balance between work and home life, and that she was learning to take breaks. Michael, who was quoted as saying that his favourite hobby was corrupting Kylie, was also credited with helping her construct a more glamorous, sexy image. In return, Kylie became something of a muse for Michael, who wrote the song Suicide Blonde about her. Kylie's growing confidence brought her to another major stage in her evolution towards the end of 1991, when she bravely decided not to renew her contract with PWL.
I don't think you're meant to leave that kind of hit factory, and I don't think anyone else did, so it was hard.
Once again, she acknowledged she couldn't have done it alone.
I put a lot of it down to luck, and the fact that the public were very, as open as possible to me changing and doing different things, and I will be eternally thankful for that, because any number of people who were doing the same as I was doing back then, who knows what they're capable of, and who knew what I was capable of, and yet I was given the chance.
And yet again, the twist in direction went hand in hand with upheaval in her private life. As she embarked on her new career with Deconstruction Records, Michael embarked on an affair with model Helena Christensen. But he and Kylie were to remain friends until his tragic suicide death in 1997. In the intervening years, Kylie's self-titled album had been released to mixed reviews, but it signalled her determination to take more control over her music and exploit her sexuality. The video to Confide in Me featured her engaging in phone sex, while she performed a slow striptease in the Barbarella-inspired Put Yourself in My Place. By the time Michael Hutchence died, Kylie was in a relationship with French photographer Stéphane Sednaoui, who was encouraging her to play down the glamour and bring out her inner rock chick. The result was her 1998 album Impossible Princess. Once again, the press fixated on her change of image.
I think people think we sit around at a big board meeting and say, right, we're going to completely change you this time, what will we do? And it's not like that.
For Kylie, the constant evolution was just a natural part of growing up.
You know, if they have a snapshot of me in their mind from, be it 10 years ago or 3 years ago, I'm bound to change.
By now, London had become home.
For the last 10 years, basically, been living here, so my life revolves around this city now, and my friends and people that I regard as family.
Which made it almost a decade since she'd said goodbye to Charlene and Neighbours.
There's still that cringe factor for sure, but I'm far more accepting of that time. Yeah, I mean, if I see pictures of me from then, it's kind of like looking at a different girl. I think, my God.
Madame Tussauds Wax Museum agreed and decided it was also time for them to update their image of the pop princess. The original figure, which had been commissioned way back in 1989, was looking hopelessly out of date, so they asked her to sit for another, and Kylie was delighted with the result.
I think she looks pretty good. Yeah, they did a really good job.
For the Queen of Reinvention, the update had been long overdue.
It's a lot easier standing next to her than it was with the old waxwork. And I guess between 20 and 30, your face changes a lot. And so, yeah, it's a lot easier standing next to her.
With luminous skin, flawless makeup and immaculate poise, it was hard to tell the real Kylie apart from her new wax effigy, which represented the next phase in her evolving career, and which was still getting the thumbs up from her loyal fans.
She's just brilliant. All her records are brilliant. She's brilliant. She's so nice.
The songs are catchy and they're nice to dance to.
I just think she's beautiful.
She's improving every day. She's not getting worse, that's for sure. She's getting better every day.
At 30 years old, the pop princess was finally breaking free from the restrictions that had governed her earlier output.
I look back at when I started, which was very controlled, but it worked at the time. And if they had said to me, look, you tell us what you want for your next album, it wouldn't have worked. In retrospect, they were, didn't do much for my confidence at the time, but it worked. I can't deny that, and they were very clever.
6 years after leaving Stock Aitken and Waterman, Kylie from Camberwell was giving herself permission to experiment with different styles and develop her songwriting.
I was literally writing anything I felt on any given day, and then it would become a song. And just trying to find an honesty with that and not have to be what I've been before or what people would perceive me as being, or even what I knew.
Going out on a limb and abandoning herself to the creative process took her into uncharted territory.
I've found that I've done a lot on this album that is surprising to myself even. I mean, I hear things back and think, oh God, I never thought that I would sound like that or that I would be capable of writing that song.
She wasn't the only one who was surprised by her new sound. Billboard magazine called the album stunning. However, UK's Music Week declared that Kylie's vocals had taken on a stroppy edge, but were not strong enough to do much. Impossible Princess became the lowest-selling album of her career, and she was forced to re-evaluate her strengths.
I learned a bit of a lesson in the last couple of years about what I do best. I started out doing pop, and I think that's definitely what I'm going to do next.
Her no-holds-barred exercise in pushing the boundaries had taught her that even she had her limits.
I think she's moved on from the soap star image, but it'll always be there to haunt her.
Having accepted that she could take the girl out of Neighbours, but would never fully escape Charlene, she wasted no time in bouncing back. In April 1999, she signed a new deal with Parlophone Records, and by the year 2000, her nod to 70s disco was soaring up the charts. Light Years went on to sell 2 million copies worldwide, and New Musical Express wrote, Kylie's capacity for reinvention is staggering, and declared the album sheer joy. Its debut single, Spinning Around, delivered her first #1 single in the UK for 10 years. The pop princess was back, bigger than ever, and to prove it, she sang one of the album's singles on a night like this to an audience of 2.1 billion viewers at the closing ceremony of the Sydney Olympics. Despite the enormity of the occasion, she didn't let nerves get the better of her.
I don't think I'll ever do anything bigger than the Olympics. That doesn't cross my mind. Once you're doing it, you just try and get it right for the people who are there.
Meanwhile, she'd started up a new relationship with model James Gooding, who was 7 years her junior. The latest incarnation of Kylie was all about sex and sophistication, and it was working like a charm. Her 2001 album, Fever, mixed the disco feel of Light Years with the sounds of 80s electro-pop.
I feel with this album, it's the most cohesive project I've done, musically, visually. The amount of Kylie, I suppose, that's in it. It just all seemed to work. It was really easy to record.
Barely had the album been finished than she was thinking about her next move.
I have had a growing desire in the past couple of years to get back into acting. I think I must have recovered from the really bad movies that I did enough to think, okay, I think I can go in and do something that I can be proud of.
However, she had to put thoughts of a return to acting on hold when, after 14 years of knocking on America's door, she was finally welcomed with open arms on the back of the lead single, Can't Get You Out of My Head, which reached #1 on the dance club charts. She was swamped at record store signings on her promotional tour and displayed the same approachability and friendliness towards the fans and press that had characterized her public appearances from the start. And she'd lost none of her girl-next-door humility.
For many years, I've just thought, well, the States is a place I'm not going to work. I'll just come for vacations, and I was quite content with that. But I did always give myself a kind of an escape clause, and I said that if by miracle, if I ever had a song that started to take off, then I would come and follow it up.
At the age of 34, when most pop stars are thinking about retiring, Kylie was just hitting her stride, and Madame Tussauds was busily moulding another waxwork in an attempt to keep up. But this time, the museum's interpretation of Kylie's current incarnation didn't quite match her own. Apparently, Kylie had agreed to let the museum create the model from a photo in which she'd posed on all fours. However, the photo had been taken from the front, which had gone some way towards preserving her modesty. When she saw the picture of the side-on waxwork wearing the micro-mini and thigh-high boots in a daily paper, she was instantly dismayed. But by then, it was too late. Still, her guest appearance in the West End in the Play What I Wrote about British comedians Morecambe and Wise would have been a timely distraction. Well used to the adoration of fawning fans, she came over all bashful when fielding compliments after the show from Prince Charles.
Well, with these guys, something like that, yeah.
Scooping more awards than ever before, not only was she being recognised by the usual roll call of mainstream pop honours like the Brit Awards and Smash Hits, she was also earning accolades from the more serious music journalists over at NME, who'd previously dismissed Kylie as a pop lightweight.
For readers of NME to have taken note of what I'm doing and to like it and to bother to vote is amazing.
But no matter how many goals she was kicking with her career, reporters were still obsessed with her private life and the question of whether she would ever get married.
Get married? I was asked, do you think you'll ever get married? And I said, I'm so exasperated with the question. I said, yeah, meaning yes, one day there is a possibility.
The possibility of an imminent trip down the aisle evaporated when James was caught having an affair with fellow model Sophie Dahl and admitted in the press that he cheated on Kylie on numerous occasions. In an interview with a Sunday tabloid, he accused the pop princess of being a self-obsessed control freak who would end up a lonely spinster. Kylie later admitted that she felt betrayed by her ex, whose violent mood swings and drug-taking, not to mention his infidelity, had forced her to leave him. While James was doing his dirty laundry in the press, Kylie was airing her new underwear at the London launch of her Love Kylie range, proving that there had perhaps been some merit to her ex's claim that she was a bit of a control freak.
Whole Proof, which is a manufacturing company in Australia, asked me if I would like to be the face of another one of their ranges. And I said, well, no, frankly, but I would like my own range, which stems from just a genuine love of lingerie.
Her skimpy briefs and sexy bras sold like hotcakes across Australia and the UK and cemented Kylie's knack for tapping into trends and staying in touch with the tastes of the public. Of course, however, she wasn't about to take all the credit for that herself.
We definitely are eager to get feedback, so I'm always happy with my friends. I'll happily give you lots of lingerie, but the deal is you have to tell me honestly what you think, what fits, what doesn't fit, what you would like to see in the range.
As Kylie has always acknowledged, the job of keeping her at the top of her game has been a hugely collaborative effort. Unlike many of her more fickle peers, she has stuck with the same manager, Terry Blamey, since the start of her singing career back in 1987. Her accountant, Father Ron, is her financial advisor. Her mother, Carol, helps with quick changes when she's on tour. And her stylist, William Baker, has been the genius behind her reinvention since 1994. Kylie has been quoted as saying, "I try to work with the best people I can and take from them what I can. Hopefully I enhance what they do as well." In 2001, she successfully enhanced the pair of gold hot pants that William had found in a London flea market for 50p in the video for Spinning Around. 2 years later, he helped her craft the Brigitte Bardot-inspired look that launched her 9th studio album, Body Language. Now in her mid-30s, she was trading in the sizzling sex kitten image for a more mature, sultry one, a change that was also reflected in her music.
But I think it's
it's indicative of pop music today. You can't really separate your image from your music, so I think it works. I think it just reflects me being a 35-year-old woman. The tempo's down. There's been a few people that hear the album and go, okay, so where's the big, club songs? And there really isn't any of those, but you can move to them.
The album was launched with a one-off invitation-only gig at Hammersmith Odeon. And at a press conference, she spoke about the people who had influenced her growing up.
Olivia Newton-John is the first one that comes to mind when I was 9 years old and wanted to be in those skin-tight black leggings and top and all of that. Madonna, moving on a little bit, probably to when I was 14.
And in a frank interview to promote the album, she tackled the topic of her overtly sexual image.
Part of what I've grown up with, the icons of mine when I was younger, were glamorous, sexy women. And I really, I don't think of myself that way. I go home and stilettos come off and slippers go on, and I'm really not very glamorous at all. So it's like role play, and it's something that I'm certainly not ashamed of. I try and have fun with it.
She jumped at the chance to defend herself from the constant criticism that her provocative image was a thinly veiled attempt to distract people from her lack of talent.
There's a lot of playfulness and there's a lot of history and a lot of serious work that goes into what I do. My job is to make it look easy for you, to make it look like, oh, I'm just luxuriating being a woman. I'm not. I work really, really... I love hard work. I mean, that's something that I've done for a long, long time. And, yeah, a part of who I am is a sensual person.
She did admit, however, that her approach to performing had changed over the years.
I think when I was younger, my voice was the last thing I considered, and now it's the first thing. The choreography, special effects, love it, love you all, great. But, guys, I've got to sing, so let's make that the priority. Everything's changed for me. The way that I would perform older songs, I'm going to perform them differently now. It's inevitable, I think. It's inevitable, and on top of that, I've tried my hardest to better myself and to do my job as well as I can.
The magazine AllMusic described body language as what happens when a dance pop diva takes the high road and focuses on what's important instead of trying to shock herself into continued relevance. While the album didn't go on to repeat the sales success of Fever, it marked yet another successful transformation for the constantly evolving pop princess. The release of her greatest hits package, Ultimate Kylie, the following year took her tally of top 10 singles up to 29 and made her the second most successful woman on the British charts, behind fellow chameleon Madonna. As commentators tried to make sense of Kylie's continued success, some put it down to her unique ability to combine the seemingly opposing characteristics of the seductive temptress and the girl next door. Through all her years of X-rated raunch and sauciness, Smiley Kylie had miraculously held on to her wholesome appeal and preserved her family-friendly status. Her honesty in interviews, down-to-earth sense of humour and continued approachability harked back to Charlene in the minds of her fans.
She's just like the girl next door. She's like your best friend. She's wonderful.
On her ITV special, An Audience with Kylie Minogue, she welcomed the star-studded audience as if she were hosting a children's show, then proceeded to invite the gathered guests to probe her with personal questions. When asked how she dealt with all the media attention, she advised them to cry when you need to, laugh as much as possible, and try and remember what's fact and what's fiction. Since the start of her career, she'd become used to waking up to reports that she'd suffered a nervous breakdown or that she'd just become engaged. Most recently, the media had been having a field day with a rumour that she'd fallen pregnant to her French boyfriend, Olivier Martinez. In fact, wide-of-the-mark reports surrounding Kylie's private life had become so commonplace that when the news broke that she'd been diagnosed with breast cancer in May 2005, it was met with scepticism. Nobody was willing to believe that little Kylie had been struck down by such a life-threatening disease at just 37 years of age. As the news sank in, it stunned her peers and fans alike, especially at home in Australia.
Shock and devastation. I dearly love her and I have great respect.
I guess I was shocked because we don't think that people like Kylie Minogue, this big sensation, is going to be, open to a disease. I think it's kind of ridiculous that we have this attitude because, of course, cancer can target any person. It doesn't matter how famous you are or how intelligent or how good looking. It doesn't matter. It's indiscriminative. So it was a bit of a shock, but then in that sense, she's a human being. So it doesn't really matter.
Messages of support flooded in, and even Australia's Prime Minister John Howard was prompted to comment.
Well, I think everybody feels shocked and saddened. A young woman, Kylie Minogue, any young woman of that age, to be diagnosed with that condition, it does send a shudder through you.
She's, an Australian icon, and she's represents Australia all over the world, so I'm sure that she's a bit of, one of Australia's golden girls, so I think everybody would be wishing her well.
One person who understood exactly what she was going through was her childhood icon, Olivia Newton-John, who'd been through her own battle with breast cancer and urged the press and public to give Kylie the time and space she needed to recover in private. As Kylie retreated to her parents' home in Melbourne, her sister Danny flew home to be by her side, and the job of keeping the world posted was left to her spokesman and former record company boss Michael Gudinski.
I'm not privy to be discussing those details, but she'll go into treatment immediately, and obviously there'll be more news in a short period of time, but our thoughts and everyone's thoughts are with her, and like I said, she's a pretty fit girl and a strong girl, and hopefully it is pretty early, and hopefully with the great doctors there are today that she'll be out there strutting her stuff before too long.
She was forced to cancel the Australian leg of her Showgirl tour and underwent surgery to remove the tumour later in May. She then headed to Paris for further treatment. After undergoing chemotherapy, photos of her sporting headscarves and a cropped hairdo made the rounds in various news bulletins and gossip magazines. Some of the photos were taken by Olivier, who was rumoured to have asked her to marry him. The same rumours claimed that Kylie had turned him down, fearing that his proposal may have been prompted by sympathy. This would have been too much to take for a woman who refused to feel sorry for herself. In October, she sent a message of support to cancer sufferers at a charity ball in London. Her sister Danny read out the message, which bore the words, "I'm currently a cancer patient. I aim to be a cancer survivor." This is only possible with the incredible work done by so many within the field: doctors, specialists, scientists and volunteers. The message also sent solidarity to those whose lives have been affected by breast cancer and gave thanks to those who are helping in each and every way. Even while undergoing treatment, she was determined not to pass up on the opportunity to use her profile to promote awareness of cancer. It won her great admiration from breast cancer campaigners.
Being breast aware, which is the message that she's giving out, is really important. 41,000 women are diagnosed with this disease every year in the UK. So being breast aware and recognising the signs and symptoms of breast cancer is really important.
Proving that she was still very much looking to the future, she also found the energy to write her first children's book, The Showgirl Princess, and to begin work on the launch of her first perfume, in collaboration with Coty. In early 2006, reports began to emerge of her improving health, and in June, she appeared on stage unannounced at one of her sister Danny's concerts, to the hysterical delight of fans, one of whom managed to record the moment on his mobile phone camera.
Absolutely shocked. Everybody was just like, oh my God, it's Kylie.
The grainy footage wouldn't have won any awards for cinematography, but it was proof positive that the pop princess had taken her first steps towards a fairy tale comeback. The next month, she showed off her chic short hairdo as she worked her way to the front of a Chanel show in Paris. 2 months later, she was doing it for the kids at a packed-out London bookstore. Looking radiant, she was overjoyed to have finally fulfilled her father Ron's prophecy.
My dad will love this. He's always said, one day you're going to write a children's book. I know that sounds impossible, but I remember that from being a child.
The aim behind writing The Showgirl Princess was to give young girls an insight into her life and to instill them with the importance of self-belief and the value of friendship and teamwork. For those who queued for hours to meet her, she'd already become a huge role model.
I think it's really amazing how strong she is, and she's looking as gorgeous as ever.
I think she's really strong to actually come back and face our fans again. She's a good singer and I just kind of like her music and she's nice.
I think everything I'm doing at the moment feels slightly monumental because I'm here and it's happening, so...
However, it seemed as though she still hadn't learned to stop and smell the roses. Despite rumours that even her bosom buddy William Baker had advised her to retire and take time out, the Kylie juggernaut was firing on all cylinders. First up, she was hitting the catwalk at the Dolce & Gabbana fashion show. After that, she revealed that her favourite designers had been hard at work, coming up with more costumes ahead of the resumption of her interrupted Showgirl tour, and Kylie was ready to roll.
I'm thrilled to be here and to be with a guy that I know and love, and to be creative again, to be inspired and dazzled by everything on that runway.
So be careful, she's back.
Yeah. Attenzione.
With her D&G costumes packed, she headed to Sydney. But instead of saving all her energy for her forthcoming stage shows, she cheekily squeezed in the launch of her perfume Darling.
It was so much fun to work on something that wasn't music, that was its own... We all worked really hard to create something that didn't look like an album cover, that had its own sense, its own space. And it was a lot of fun.
Then it was down to the business of getting back on stage for her first concert since her illness. Ahead of the gig at the Sydney Entertainment Centre, her loyal fans were proving the depth of their devotion.
Very excited to see Kylie.
Fanatical fan.
Yes.
Crazy.
I actually went to the last show in London that she did, and now I'm going to the first show after her illness, so it's quite exciting.
The sellout extravaganza was declared nothing less than a triumph by the Sydney Morning Herald. And the fans were beside themselves.
It was amazing. She's so beautiful. Kylie's my princess.
Everything was better, and the costumes were better, and she was better, and I loved it. Thank you. It was amazing. Thank you very much.
Awesome.
That was awesome.
So good to see you back, Kylie. We love you so much. And you look so great. Thank you.
While her trademark flamboyant glamour and confident sexual posturing had sealed her as a camp favourite since the early days, her emotional and dramatic comeback in late 2006 made her truly deserving of the gay icon status she'd achieved. Although she'd once disputed the label, claiming there'd been no tragedy in her life, only tragic outfits, her triumph over adversity had put her on a par with classic tragic heroines like Marilyn Monroe and Judy Garland. The singer herself dates her evolution as a gay icon back to 1989, when the news media began their assault on her. Kylie believes that gay fans responded to her obvious distress and adopted the 5-foot singer as their mascot. She, in turn, has remained deeply loyal to them, performing at gay venues and events and openly supporting AIDS charities and gay rights causes. A few months after returning to the stage, Kylie's 20-year love affair with High Camp was being celebrated at one of Britain's most highbrow art venues. Coming together in all their glory at the Victoria and Albert Museum were the Voodoo Inferno dress, the leopard print catsuit, the pink Galliano corset, and the muslin cotton dress from I Should Be So Lucky, and some rather oily reminders of her time on Neighbours.
The exhibition goes right back. In fact, we have the overalls from Charlene in Neighbours. But it starts, I suppose, in 1987 with I Should Be So Lucky and the Jenny Bannister muslin dress. And it takes a look at her changing image through videos and also in performances. But I suppose the part of the exhibition that is most up to date is the tour section, and that's where Kylie says herself her creativity really comes to the fore.
The exhibition also included the famous white hooded jumpsuit that Kylie barely wore in the video to Can't Get You Out of My Head.
There's a great story that when Kylie saw it and saw how it was cut, she wondered how on earth she was going to wear it, and I'm sure there must have been some tape involved in that.
When Kylie rocked up to the exhibition launch on the arm of William Baker, she was regaled with questions about her recent split from Olivier Martinez, following rumours that he'd had an affair with actress Salma Hayek. As ever, she responded to the personal questions with the grace and discretion befitting her pop royalty status.
I'm just going to say that I'm here tonight and having a wonderful time, thinking about my friend also, and he's wished me all the best for tonight, so yeah, it's all good.
With Kylie's consistently polite refusals to talk about her private life, the public would have to make do with a privileged glimpse inside her wardrobe.
So I hope that everyone who comes to see it will enjoy getting a little bit up close and personal.
There was one item in particular the visitors wanted to get to know.
People are really interested in the gold hot pants because in 2000 Kylie relaunched her career with Spinning Around and became incredibly successful and popular again. And those gold hot pants have a real sense of sort of mystery about them too, because we don't know who designed them. They were bought very cheaply from the flea market.
Kylie, the exhibition, even recreated the dressing room from Kylie's most recent concert at Wembley Stadium. Seeing the fruits of her labours all in one place was a timely reminder of how much she'd already achieved. And the little lady with a big wardrobe wasn't about to sit around taking it easy. Kylie's mass appeal and iconic sense of style made her an obvious target for fashion label H&M, which has become famous for its recent collaborations with big-name artists like Madonna. The Swedish retailer asked her to put her name to a beachwear line, and she ended up performing at the launch of their store in mainland China.
I wouldn't call myself a fashion designer, but they've taken influence from my style, whatever that is. And I love the capsule range they've created. It's definitely what I would wear at the beach, off the beach, with the summer theme.
Then it was over to the south of France to help raise money for AIDS sufferers at Sharon Stone's annual AMFAR benefit at Cannes. If she was upset about her split from Olivier after 4 years, she certainly wasn't letting it show. But then Kylie has never been one to play the bleeding heart. However, during a press conference in Berlin later in the year, she opened up a little on the subject of settling down and starting a family.
I'm asked a lot about that at the moment, and I can only say very generally that a family in the future would be wonderful. I don't think it's something that I can necessarily plan, but if that were to happen, you know, my life would go on a brand new path, and I think it would be fantastic.
For the time being, she was content with reflecting upon how important her own family had been throughout her ordeal with cancer.
I think I felt at times during that time that it was possibly harder for my family than it was for me, that feeling of helplessness. But their strength was really so incredible.
and admirable. And I learned a lot more about my family and friends, you know, people who are close.
At an awards do later that year, Danny was just happy to have her big sister back.
It's been a long ordeal and one that I'm glad that's over. I just really want to look to the future and good, exciting times.
She was there to present Kylie with the first Music Industry Trust Award ever to go to a woman in its 16-year history. Surrounded by a long list of luminaries with whom she collaborated over her career, including Jake Shears from Scissor Sisters and 80s singer Kathy Dennis, who produced Fever, clearly she was out to have a good time.
This is just such an enormous honour, and I really thank you from, I won't say the heart of my bottom, from the bottom of... from the bottom of my heart. Thank you so much. I hope you've had a great night.
There were more accolades to come. At the Q Magazine Awards in October, she was coming to terms with being named Q Idol of the Year.
I still haven't prepared what to say. I'll probably make it up. Well, I'll have to make it up once I'm there. I mean, what do you say to that? It's great. I'm really pleased.
As she went in to prepare her speech, many of her younger peers were piling on the praise.
I think she is an icon.
Kylie,
she's
yeah.
a strong woman. She's been through so much and come out the other end, you know, as strong as ever. She's looking amazing, and, you know, I just think she's a great woman and someone to look up to.
It's nice to see her back.
Yeah.
She's made some brilliant songs, great music, fantastic imagery, and she's shown an incredible amount of strength, obviously, in the last couple of years.
All the great publicity augured well for the release of White Diamond, the documentary made by William Baker about the lead-up to her stage comeback. With barely any breathing space in between, she was back in front of the cameras promoting the release of her 10th studio album, X. She'd started work on the album in May 2006, as she began her slow recovery from breast cancer. Looking back, it was incredible to think that it had only been 12 short months since making that tentative comeback in Sydney. 2007 also brought up another momentous event, the unveiling of an unprecedented fourth waxwork at Madame Tussauds.
Only the Queen has had more figures than Kylie. She's had 5, but Kylie Minogue's pop royalty. She's a pop chameleon. She's so popular because she changes images and moves with the time. So our fans here and our guests have wanted exactly the same. They wanted to see a new, up-to-date Kylie, so it made sense.
Mark IV Kylie, dressed in a costume from her Showgirl tour, was a little more sedate than her earlier wax models and reflected the maturing image of the 39-year-old pop princess, whose connections with real-life royalty were set to deepen. In July 2008, 2 months after her 40th birthday, she was in a limousine on her way to Buckingham Palace to collect an Order of the British Empire for her lifetime contribution to pop music. Presenting her with the OBE would be Prince Charles, who had been so impressed with her all-singing, all-dancing turn as a bald monk in the West End 4 years earlier. While on tour in Paris, she'd been summoned by the French cultural minister to be honoured as Chevalier of the Order of Arts and Letters. It was a very proud moment for Carol and Ron as they watched their oldest daughter accept the medal previously awarded to the likes of Bob Dylan, Meryl Streep and Bono. Having spent so much time living in France with Olivier, she picked up enough of the language to express her gratitude in French.
C'est un moment exceptionnel pour moi d'être ici avec vous aujourd'hui à Paris. Merci beaucoup et merci.
To have her incredible achievements formally recognised by her adopted countries was fitting reward for 20 years of continual reinvention and tireless dedication to honing her craft, as well as entertaining audiences. However, Kylie would no doubt have been just as humbled to receive the Excellence in Entertainment Award at the annual Good Day LA Australia Week, presented by her #1 icon and fellow cancer survivor.
Kylie, who's being honoured tonight, has done so much for pop music without being Aussie. She's just done a lot of pop music. And she's beautiful and she's creative and she's been through a lot with dignity and grace, and she's an international star. I think it's wonderful.
Well, to be considered an Australian who's doing well and representing...
who they're pleased to have representing Australia around the world. It's amazing.
It was a great opportunity to take in just how much she'd achieved over the past 2 decades. Apart from racking up record sales of more than 60 million and staging 10 elaborate tours, she'd won countless music and style awards, founded a successful lingerie company, written a children's book, acted in films, received both an OBE and a French Legion of Honor, survived cancer, and become a role model for thousands of young fans around the world. But despite her incredible achievements, it seems there is never any escape from the recurring questions about the romantic future of a pop princess who, at the age of 40, still doesn't seem to have found her prince charming.
I'm a fatalist, and I've been lucky enough to have some great relationships. And I've always believed they run the time they're meant to run, so we'll see what's around the corner for me.
After recent newspaper reports that she has since found love in the arms of 30-year-old Spanish supermodel Andre Valencoso, it looks as though Kylie may finally have found her man. But like all of her former beaux, he'll need to be prepared to fit in around her unyieldingly punishing schedule. At the 2008 unveiling of a new home furnishings line, which she co-designed with William Baker, she offered up a revealing insight into what living with Kylie Minogue might be like.
I'm always ripping pages out of magazines, underlining passages in books, and just random, really random stuff. And I find that more and more so these days, I'm really, really hungry for that kind of creative stimulation. I mean, now we're preparing to go back on the road, and a whole new tour means a whole new concept and outfits and everything. So my mind is literally, you can probably hear me as I'm sleeping.
As she ramps up for her latest tour to celebrate the album X, the go-go girl inside Kylie Minogue is showing absolutely no signs of letting up and settling down.
I'm absolutely happiest when I'm busy.
But surrounded by her treasured friends and collaborators, there is no way she will ever be left feeling lonely.
I really consider myself fortunate to have a job where there's so many creative elements and outlets, and I work with great teams, and I think the standard that I want or inspire is around, and that's, you know, I couldn't do it without these wonderful people.